Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is my very first YouTube video where I'm going to do some live coding. I'm going to develop a two-way data binding inside a custom view. For those who don't know what a custom view is, it's a view that is not included in the standard toolbox of Android. We can communicate with these views, defining callbacks on the activity of the front end, but what will really put the cherry on top of a good development is to pass this data through an XML. So in this session, I'm going to develop a custom view and I will show you how to get and set this data through the XML. If you're ready, let's get to it. We'll just create an empty activity project. We can call it data binding example. That should be all right. Then we'll use Kotlin and we will set the API to 21 so we don't have any problems. I don't know what you. Okay. Okay, so let's run the project to be sure everything is in place, and then we can get started with it. Yeah. All right, it runs well. So let's get started with some prerequisites. First, we had to enable data binding in the app. All right, so we will do this here. We write data binding enable equals true. All right, and then we need the plugin. Well, no, let's do it manually here. Apply plugin Kotlin cat. That should be it. All right, so it works. We got all the prerequisites we needed, and then let's get started. First, I will make some clear steps on what we are going to do. So first, what we are going to do is to create a Kotlin custom view. It will be a very simple one. It is going to be an amount counter that will have two buttons, addition and subtraction, and then depending which button you push, it will add or it will subtract one number. So it will be a very simple counter, right? So we have the Kotlin custom view. Afterwards, we will add one-way data binding. So then we make an idea about what is data binding and how we use it. Then we'll use live data with ViewModel. Both are Android architecture components and work very well together. And this will be also the way we are going to pass the information from our custom view to our controller, that it will be in this case the main activity. And then for last, we will add the two-way data binding. All right. Let me change the color, and if I can size it, I just leave it here. Okay, so let's get started with the Kotlin custom view. I will create it here, a class called amount select. Oops. I don't know what's going on. Selector view. Alright. And we'll define the layout here. We'll call it view amount selector. So we will create a linear layout. We don't want to make this too complicated. So we create a linear layout, wrap content, and the orientation will be horizontal. So inside of it, we'll create a button, wrap content, and then I will hardcode the text. But maybe we can leave it like that. Then we'll have a text view, same thing, and just to see it here in the layout visualization. Oops, text. We can add just like a number, 7 for example, and then the other button, text addition, and that should be it. And this should be wrap content as well. All right. So there we have it. What we are going to do is just starting enabling data binding here. So how do we do that? First, we declare the layout, and then we add data to the layout. Inside this data field, we will add a variable that we'll call it view, and this will be our mount selector view class. So here we have it. This code goes here inside. All right. And these imports can go out here. All right, so we got it here. Yeah. All right, so let's make this class custom view. So we'll just use Java virtual machine overloads for the constructor that will require context, and this context is mandatory. Then the attributes, that will be an attribute set, which is not mandatory. It means it's nullable. If we don't pass any attributes here, it will be null by default. And then we have the styles, that will be an int, which cannot be null but can be 0, and style resources, same thing. So we are going to stand this view. It is going to stand of the parent of the XML, which will be a linear layout. So we are going to do that. And of course, we're going to pass the context, the attributes, so everything we're getting in this class, in the constructor of this class. All right. So now what we have to do is to inflate this layout into this view or the class. So we get started getting the layout inflator there, and using the context we'll get system service. This system service is with context layout inflator service. So the thing is that here it will return an object, but we actually want the layout inflator. So we will cast it as a layout inflator. So we have it. And now we are going to use this layout to create the view binding. So we'll get this view. It will be view amount selector binding, and we will inflate it using the layout inflator. Then we have to define the root of this layout. That will be this class. And then if we want to attach it to the root, in this case we do want to attach it to the root, so we set it to true. And that's it. Now with this, it would inflate this view, and therefore it will be shown. There is one more tweak here, is that the view, we have to attach it to the class, right? So what we're going to do is we'll just access this object with apply, and then we'll get the view which is inside, and we'll set it to this add amount selector view. Okay, that's it. We have it. We still have to do some things, but let's go to the main activity and add it here. We can actually replace this for an amount selector view. We just remove this, and then it's centered, so that should be fine. All right, so we have it here. Of course, we don't have any number here because we haven't defined it, and it's what we are going to do now. So I'm going to use an observable integer that will be called selected amount. All right, and this will be an observable integer of 0. All right. So now what we can do is go to the XML and add the text here. We'll go to view selected amount, and then we run it, and it will fail. I will tell you why. It's because this is an integer. So when you put the input integer to this field text, it thinks that it is a string resource, and of course we don't have any string resource with the ID 0. So then it won't work. All right. So what we have to do, or what I would do, is to create an extension of a text view. So we're going to do that. We don't need to create a class. We'll create a file, call it text view, and then here we'll create extension text view. Excuse me, text view set number text. All right, and then this will be number. which will be an integer, and then text of the text view will be the number to string. That's it. And then to be able to attach it to the data binding, to the XML, excuse me, we are going to do a data binding adapter. Binding adapter, and we'll call it number text. So now when we want to use this method in a text view, we just need to come here and add up number text. I will add this. Then we do the same thing. We get from the view the selected amount, and now it should work fine. I will close this and this and this. All right, so we got the 0, so which means that it is already getting the input from the class. So that was the first part of Kotlin custom view. We have it done. Let's get started with the one-way data binding. And the one-way data binding, it's very simple. We just let's say no. I just missed one thing, very simple one, but let's do it. Actually, these buttons are not working, so we are going to create the functions that will update this value, so it will be updated. So we'll create a function addition, very simple one, that what we'll do is to get the selected amount, and we'll set the selected amount dot get plus 1. And the same way we're going to do subtraction function that get the selected amount set dot get minus 1. Then once we have them, we'll add them here. We'll use onClick of the button. We'll use data binding, and we'll set the onClick to the view subtraction in this case, and view addition. Okay, now I think we're done. We come here, and as we can see, the text view is updated. All right. So now we can go for the next one, which will be adding the one-way data binding. So this will be as simple as adding another method. We'll add a binding adapter, and we'll set function set. Excuse me, I forgot to name it. It will be amount, and then we'll set amount here. Amount. It will have the input of the amount that we want to set. So if the selected amount is different of the new amount, then we'll update it. Boom, we got it. So that's it. Okay, so maybe we have to add it also here. The view. This will be amount selector view. Okay, now it works. This method is the one that is binding to the XML that will be on main activity. So when we got this, what we want to do now is to add amount and then whatever here. All right, but first we can do this. We need to set up data binding also here in the activity main. So we are going to do it the same way, adding the layout and the data for it. So we add the layout, the data, and inside the data, the variable that will be the activity in this case. And this activity will be main activity. Or is, yeah. All right. So now we come here. These imports, I would prefer to put them here. That's it. All right, so now to be able to attach the activity class to this activity layout, we had to make a little modification here. So let's come here to main activity. So the way is being done now is you just set the content view, the layout. So what we have to do now is to inflate this view in another way. I'll show you. So the same way that we did before, we get the layout inflator, get system service, and notice that we are not using the context now because of course we are in the activity. And then we get the layout inflator service, which is an object, and we want the layout inflator. And then we create the view binding. Will be main, or is it activity main? T main binding dot inflate with the layout inflator, and that's it, right? So actually not. We need to, in the object, attach will be the activity to this at main activity. Now we're done actually. And instead of setting the content view this way, we'll get the view binding root, and then we'll set it that way. So what this does is that now this layout is inflated and the activity variable is attached. And now what we can do is to get to use the set amount binding adapter on this custom view from the activity main. So we use this and we just set a random number that I will put 7. So let's see how it works. Oh, something failed. Let's see what it is in the lot cut. Okay, let's see the errors. Okay, it's not static and requires an object to use. Okay, I thought it would work like that, but let's extract it in an object. We can call this maybe mount binding adapter, and then we just copy paste it here. Now we can make it static, adding Java virtual function stated here, and I think that should work this way. Actually not. We need, as this is completely a part of this class, even though if it's inside, as it is static, we have to get the view selected amount, and then the same way to set it. So now it should work. So now we are getting the input 7 from the activity main layout, and we are showing it here, and then we can work with it. So now we have the one-way data binding set it up. So let's get started with the next one, which will be LiveData and ViewModel. The reason why I'm using this is because we actually need to get a buffer to get information one way and also the other way. So we are going to use a mutable LiveData. So let's get started with this. I'm going to create, let's call it, for example, main ViewModel, and this will extend Android architecture components ViewModel. All right. So inside of this ViewModel, we'll create an amount that, instead of calling it amount, I will call it selected amount. All right. And this will be Untitled live data of integer. Nice. So now what we want to do is to get the main activity. I will create not private because we need it later. ViewModel, and it's main ViewModel. All right. So now we created the ViewModel into the main activity that will be like the view, and that ViewModel contains a live data object that we will bind it to our component. So yeah, it's as simple as that. What we are going to do now is inside this object, we are going to take the selected amount and we are going to observe it, because then we know when it changes. Observe. So what it's needed here, let me show you. Okay, so now it needs life cycle owner, and then it needs the observable. So the life cycle owner will be the activity, and this means that now selected amount will be life cycle aware. It means that if this activity is not being shown, this observable will be detached and then reattached afterwards if when this activity is shown. So we prevent data leaks. So then it will be this, which is the main activity. And then we have to add the observer of Android lifecycle. This observer it will get an integer, which is the value that it set for the Immutable LiveData. And then we can observe it this way. So this will be the amount. And what we are going to do, we can do a lot of things, but we'll just make a toast. Make text this main activity mon oops related amount toast line short and show. All right. So now we know that each time this value is changed, we will see a toast called amount selected and then the amount which is selected. So let's leave it there for now. Let's mark it this as done, and then let's start it with the two-way data binding. The two-way data binding is a bit more complex of the one-way data binding because it's not only setting the amount, you need to make a method called getAmount, and also you will need to implement a listener to check when this variable is changed, and then call getAmount or tell the two-way binding to get that value. So let's get started with that. As we have here the binding adapter, so now we have to define an inverse binding adapter, and it will be the same amount, which is the same attribute, which is amount. I'm doing it right. It's binding adapter. Yeah. Maybe. Okay, that was the problem. And of course, this will be also a static function get amount that will require the view amount selector view, and it will return an integer that will be the amount. Return view selected amount dot get. Easy. All right. So now we have the setter and the getter. Let's make the listener. The listener will be another binding adapter with a special name. It will be the amount because it's for the amount attribute, and then we'll add at the end attribute change it. This is the way we are telling the binding, the two-way data binding or the framework, that this will be the listener, right? So as we did before, static function set listeners required view, and then it will be an attribute change that it is an inverse binding listener. Is it alright? So what we have to do is to get to know when this variable is changed. For that, as long as this is unobservable as well, what we can do is just come here, view, get, selected amount, and then we add the property change callback. That is on property change callback. And then we add we implement the method, and then when we reach this part of the code, it's obviously that it has been changed. So then we call this inverse binding listener. We say that it has changed, the value has changed, and then it will be returned with get amount. All right. There is one final tweak that I'm not sure if it's needed, but I always do. I define the inverse binding methods here, and then this is inverse binding method. The type will be the class. The attribute we are getting is the amount, and then the method for the inverse binding will be get amount, which is this one. I'm not sure if I'm missing something. Inverse binding methods. Here it is. Okay, so let's run it to see if it works well. Nice. So what we can do now is come to the not the main activity, the layout, and instead of hard coding the 7 here, we come and use activity at the view model of the activity, and then the selected amount. All right. So there is one important part here. This, or actually, as we had it before, this means one-way data binding. If we need a two-way data binding, we need to add an equals here. This means that it will be a two-way data binding. So let's try it out and see if it works. Let's cross fingers. So now we get the value 0 that we defined here, and when we add, it is updated in the component, and then you get the callback into the main activity, which shows amount selected, as you can see here. Amount selected 2, amount selected 3, and also the other way. And that's it. I hope you could follow it through, and if not, don't worry, because I will put the GitHub link on the description. So you can see this removes a lot of complexity, especially if you are working in an app with a lot of screens and components, and it is a very good way of developing clean, concise, and maintainable code. Please let me know if there is any step that is not clear to you, and have a good day, everyone. Bye.